Hey, how is everyone doing today? Sorry about the delay there on my end. I am Maniacal, and we have, in A Link to the Past No Major Glitches Tournament group stages match, actually two of them, for the 2018 tournament. The top one between z4t0x and simpol, and the bottom between Kohrek and MrWunder. And I am very excited for this race, so I apologize for my delay. It was a perfect storm where all of Metro Atlanta conspired to trap me in a queue of cars. But I've made it safely through, and the runners are going safely through the castle escape now, headed down to rescue Zelda from her cell. At this point, really no more than a screen separating any two runners. Looks like about a screen between z4t0x and simpol, whereas MrWunder and Kohrek are within frames of one another. That's pretty much what we expect to see. To this point, the only points of RNG early in the run really are things like the enemy patterns that you're going to get. Kohrek coming up here in the back of the escape is a big one. But all the runners made it cleanly through. Ball and chain guard. No problems there. Everyone choosing for an 8/ strategy rather than choosing to throw a pot. I'm going to try my best to watch 4 screens at once, so I apologize if I miss anything. But so far so good on all the screens. Thankfully not much separation yet, so it's pretty easy to keep track of everyone. So just to talk a little bit about the runners, I guess first going on the bottom screen, we have a Group AD match here between Kohrek and MrWunder. Kohrek currently 1-1 in the group stage. MrWunder currently 0-1. But having both already lost to Link Orange, who went 3-0 in the group, both players are still very much live for advancing to brackets. So this match has implications on who will advance to brackets. If Kohrek happens to win, I believe that will guarantee his spot in the single elimination bracket. Whereas if MrWunder wins, then I believe that he will be in control of his own destiny as well when he plays against z4t0x. To switch over and talk about the top match, we have a Group C match between simpol and z4t0x. z4t0x currently 2-0 in the group. If I'm reading it right, he's either already punched his ticket or is very close to locking up his spot in brackets. Pika Pal's currently 2-1 in that group. Willard 1-2. Simpol, currently 0-2, will be looking to try and get his first win of the tournament. And looks like Kohrek got a top left or northwest key rat there. That's one of the worst RNGs. But all the runners got their keys and are now approaching the sanctuary. It looks like z4t0x will be the first one there, and he's coming in with a 5:55. Very nice time there. Runners are trying to get that sub-6. And MrWunder and Kohrek coming right around that 6-minute mark. And simpol, maybe just a tick behind. All runners having a really, really nice end of their castle escape. Everyone finishing in the 5:55 to 6:05 window. That is a really, really nice time for everyone. Especially given all the RNG. I mean, we saw at least Kohrek got a northwest key rat. Potential for a little time loss there. Didn't see the patterns on all the other screens. But what we're going to see next is still kind of very pure slow movement until the runners get the boots. They're going to walk over to Eastern Palace. They're going to go through Eastern. We're going to see a couple different key sort of speed strats in Eastern. There's the Stalfos room, where the runners are going to try and throw some pots in specific ways to kill 2 spawn points rather than having to deal with 3 or 4 Stalfos. 4 is the normal number that would spawn in that room by walking in a particular way and throwing pots to particular spots. They already know what they're doing, so they shouldn't have too much trouble with it, but it is a cool strat. And then following up on that, we're going to probably see some big key skips or anti-fairy skips where the runners are going to use invulnerability frames. z4t0x getting hung up a little on that Armos. Kohrek just choosing to go straight for the boomerang, as did simpol. I didn't catch MrWunder's play there. I'm going to try to equitably distribute my attention, but I apologize for any of the runners. But they'll be using invulnerability frames to skip past a ring of anti-fairies that otherwise would not disperse until they kill all the enemies in the room. And they will be able to lift a pot, then hit a switch that rests under that pot to reveal the chest that has the big key. So we call it the big key skip, even though the runners are skipping anti-fairies to get the big key. And we're coming up on that Stalfos room here on z4t0x's screen. He's the first one there. Kohrek right behind, along with MrWunder. The sync on the bottom race is wonderful. And simpol just a few seconds behind. And everyone nails it. Everyone did exactly what they were supposed to do. z4t0x is going to be getting his small key here out of this Stalfos room. And then heading over to do his anti-fairy skip. And I see the question in the chat from Sleepy Mario. Where will people start to gain or lose serious time? And early on, there's not so much serious time loss potential. If someone should happen to die in Eastern, we did see everyone take the Sanctuary Heart, one of the most important safeties that is optional. That's why it's safety. But looks like everyone got their anti-fairy skips. I think Kohrek took an extra heart of damage there. MrWunder did as well, so a heart and a half each on the bottom, 2.5 hearts each on top. That's part of why Sanctuary Heart is so useful, is you have a little bit of leeway to do those things. But if there were an Eastern death, that's a very costly death. Hopefully not for any of the players. That costs a couple minutes. Otherwise, most of your bigger time losses show up in the Dark World. But something like a Moldorm Fall in Tower of Hera is going to always cost you at least 20-some seconds. Land Molus is a very RNG dependent boss, or RNG heavy boss at the end of Desert Palace. And Aghanim can also, because of the RNG related to the patterns of balls for Aghanim. And z4t0x having a little bit of trouble here with the Zelda Gamer Room. Looks like he's cleaned it up okay, but that's going to let simpol catch up here, and yeah, simpol now back in the same room, and MrWunder the first one into his Armos Knights fight. 5 arrows to the right, and then 13 down is the order. And Kohrek's health, he's going to have to be... Oh, shucks. Well, that... I don't know if that counts as a comm curse or not. I was hoping to see no Eastern deaths, but that is a costly death. Because you don't have boots yet, you need to walk the whole way back through this dungeon. I think that's what Kohrek's lull in chat there was about. I saw it and I said, please don't let it be so. But it was so, and so MrWunder has taken the lead in that race, and simpol and z4t0x are both on their way over to get their boots. So MrWunder going to be the first one with his scoot shoes, and Kohrek is going to be walking back through Eastern, showcasing that Stalfos room again. But then he's going to be able to proceed right to the back of the dungeon, so he is going to have to redo Zelda Gamer, get his arrows back in order. We'll see if he takes these 2 pots here. But yes, I see. I can't pronounce that name, so I'm going to go with Iruliel, because I think that's absolutely wrong, but I'll pride myself on the incorrectness. Asking about Cold Stare, one of the worst time losses. Absolutely, Cold Stare is a pretty harsh death to take. There's a number of bad deaths you can take late in the run, and as the run progresses, because the runners aren't going to be getting any mail upgrades, it's going to be harder and harder for them to stay alive as the enemies deal more damage around them. Thankfully, they'll have more hearts, but a lot of the enemies in Ice Palace, like Cold Stare, those puffs deal 4 hearts apiece, but we'll talk more about that when we get there. But Ice Palace deaths are particularly punishing. Hopefully, all the runners can make it through quickly. So what we see on simpol's screen now, and what we've seen from MrWunder and z4t0x as well, is something called spin speed, where the runners are able to release a spin attack and press dash 1 frame later. There's z4t0x having a little bit of trouble deciding it's worth the second try. Kohrek back on his Armos Knights fight, cleaning it up. There we go, nicely. Yeah, a little bit flustered, I think, for Kohrek, as anyone would be taking that Armos death. But he is going to be on his way to get his book as well. z4t0x didn't dash quite far enough to the right there to dodge that blue guard, but using a nice buffer to book menu to set up his dash there to avoid dashing in the water a little slower than dashing on the grass. simpol also getting it, but without the buffer to book. And MrWunder similarly did not use that buffer. A lot of runners will choose to take that, but they will have to menu to book right here, stop themselves from bonking into the bottom of that sort of pedestal area. Open up Desert Palace. But yeah, Kohrek finally getting his boots. He'll be showing off his spin speed skills as well here in just a second. But it looks like he has taken the rupees and the bombs maybe at the back of Sahasrara's hut. And so this is a safety that you'll see some runners take, or a routing choice. It's a little bit less efficient than what we'll see from all the other runners. They've chosen to do tree rupees, which will show up in the route after Tower of Hera, as they're on their way to and from the Master Sword pedestal. They're going to be tugging on some trees. Kohrek's not going to have to do that, so he'll make up, I think it's about 6 or 7 seconds in that part of the run. Doesn't quite make up for the Armos Knight's death, but he will have 3 extra bombs, as well as a few extra rupees to work with, and won't have to worry about doing the tree rupees. This is an older strat from Kohrek, but tried and true, and something that a lot of runners will choose to do. Simpol coming into the cannonball room. We saw from MrWunder and z4t0x already, those cannonballs are RNG, nothing you can do. You just have to read the pattern and see if you can dash cleanly through. Simpol avoids taking a hit, but does have to do a dash cancel. And MrWunder getting B-most there. Thankfully, still has 3.5 hearts. We have 3.5 for Simpol and MrWunder, and 4.5 for z4t0x. Runners are going to want to be careful with their health through the Landmo fight. And we saw z4t0x hug the left wall, MrWunder hug the right wall there. If you get that dash off just in time, you can dash through that antlion. But if you dash along the right wall, as MrWunder did, you don't ever need to worry about the antlion. You'll dash right past and never get stuck in his sand trap. And so a little bit safer of a strat. That's one of the things that we're going to be looking at in all 4 screens here is choice of strats. And wow, Simpol going for Desert 2 spin speed. But without the buffer to lamp. So I don't think if you go around the outside that actually saves any time. But it's swaggy as hell by virtue of being super risky. I think he may have broken even on frames, but it looked cool, and it had the potential to lose basically redoing all of the first part of Desert, so it's like a minute time loss if he were to touch the edge, because the glitch state that he put himself in will initiate a quick drop if he touches any ledge, because it counts Link as dashing even though he's walking freely. The only other thing that I wanted to highlight about Desert as we come into Landmo here, big point of RNG on z4t0x's screen. That first round's fixed, everything else is RNG. But I want to talk quickly about key dashing that we've seen on all the runners' screens. A couple successful ones, at least one failed one. Not going to point fingers if you didn't catch it, but basically, Link moves 4 pixels per frame while dashing on sort of normal surfaces. And so all the tiles in the game are 16 pixels wide. That's the size of Link's sprite. And all the objects are kind of multiples of 4 pixels. And so if you rub an object, you can reset Link's dash so that he will be perfectly aligned with the door, and you can dash into a door with the key and transition without bonking. To do it from free space, it's a 1 in 4 thing. And all the runners so far making it cleanly through Landmo. Simpol looking like he's going for some spin strats to clean up that last worm. But all of the bot wounds are dead, and they will be making their way over to the fake flippers, which is another minor glitch that we use. We aren't allowed to use major glitches, but we use a preponderance of minor glitches in this run. And so what the runners are going to do is screen transition as they jump into water. There it was on z4t0x's screen. Perfect first try. Oh, Simpol getting a little beat up by Sandman. And MrWunder getting pickle-gated here. So he's going to go for his fake flippers. There it is. It tricks the game into thinking you have flippers by screen transitioning where Link is already in the water. It circumvents that check so Link can swim until he hops out and then he can't swim anymore. Or until he gets hit. And he'll be soft-locking if he does take that hit. So thankfully, so far, MrWunder and z4t0x safe on their fake flippers. Looks like Simpol is doing A-OK too. And we'll be hoping for Kohrek to also do just fine when his time comes. And so we see Simpol farming the pickle, getting the full magic drop there, and the crab. Yeah, I see in chat it only saves about 6 seconds over doing the sort of surface screen route where you dash through some screens that you otherwise don't really spend a lot of time seeing in the NMG run. But because it is 6 seconds, we do go for it. Plus, again, it's a cool thing we get to show off. Kohrek, 1.5 hearts here, onto his land. 2 worms down. That last worm, oh, nicely done. The pattern cooperated, and he sniped 3 arrows into that last land mollusk. That, I think, is going to make up a little bit of time for him. He's still got a lot of ground to make up, but thankfully, For Kohrek, a lot of the major time losses that runners can absorb in this run are late in the run. Things like that cold stare death that we mentioned, that's at least 4 minutes. And so, yeah, we still have very much a race between all of the runners. Looks like z4t0x is the first one into Tower of Hera, getting his small key from the basement. Now he's going to go get his big key through the tile room. This is one of the potential input breaks for runners over the course of the run. There aren't a lot of input breaks in this run, so we'll see a lot of runners try and get this coffee break here by locking themselves on the pegs, and there z4t0x gets it. So he's going to be taking a little bit of an input break, can stand up, get a breather. Kohrek is onto his fake flippers, and he's made it through the most dangerous part of the swim. As simpol coming into Tower of Hera, going to go get his small key. MrWunder just waiting out the tiles, using the sword plus boomerang to kind of keep himself safe. This is kind of a way to just avoid taking damage, not have to lock yourself on the pegs and use iframes. He is going to have to hit that switch in the next room to lower those orange pegs that we just saw on z4t0x's screen. But that's, you know, a minor time loss. You throw the boomerang upright, and it's a little less efficient, but still not too bad. Gonna light the torches, get that mirror ready. Do not mirror before you grab the big key. Don't ever mirror before you grab the big key, otherwise you'll feel like me and you'll just... and then you'll have to go wait for that tile room again, so don't do that. Luckily, all the runners successfully getting the big key, simpol and Kohrek yet to do it, but I trust they'll be fine. Simpol taking his coffee break, and Kohrek is getting his mirror from the old man, so he will be into Tower of Hera very soon. The boulders he's dodging right now are RNG, and he's dodging them expertly, so it looks like he'll be making it into Tower of Hera with full health. That's a luxury that not many runners get, and so far so good. Yep, he is set up. He will be into Tower of Hera, barring this last dead rock. He'll be in with full health. MrWunder showing off a bomb jump there to get his key in the upstairs. I didn't see what happened on z4t0x and simpol's screen, but they're back in Beetles, and simpol taking a death. Tower of Hera not being kind. I assume that z4t0x must have fallen at some point, but MrWunder going to be the first one into his Lambo fight here. But this bomb jump, if you do fail, you fall 2 floors down, and that's very inconvenient. But by bonking, you can increase the window from 2 pixels from the edge to 6 pixels from the edge for success for that bomb jump. MrWunder not taking that time loss of the mold arm fall, getting through. I assume I must have not said Moldorm, because I see a chat correction, so my apologies. It is a Moldorm fight that MrWunder was into. I probably said Landmolus or something dumb, so sorry about that. And simpol taking that fall, he's going to take a ride down 2 flights of stairs directly by a hole using the broken elevator, and he's going to mirror out and try again. Unfortunately, that is going to mean he has to redo the Beetles room. Fortunately, he gets to showcase his Beetles strats again. z4t0x has made it through his Moldorm fight, as MrWunder is doing a dangerous dash. Thankfully, he got his dash canceled, didn't bonk, didn't lose, I think, 5 or 6 seconds. We're going to see him start tugging trees. He's going to get blue rupees here, going to collect usually 2, but his rupee situation's good, actually. z4t0x and simpol also pretty good rupee situations. They won't need those blue rupees in order to get to the 110 that they need to get into Palace of Darkness. All the runners have managed to pick up some sort of errant rupees, probably from Popos, across the course of the run so far. Popos have a lot of rupees in their drop table. Or they are in a prize pack with a lot of rupees. There it is, simpol getting his bonk and bomb jump over to Moon Pearl first try. Don't know where the time went, but that was absolutely a first try bomb jump. And he and Kohrek are pretty well synced up. So looks like Kohrek is having a pretty good Tower of Hera so far. This is what I was saying about even with that costly death that we saw Kohrek take in Eastern Palace, just a couple small hang-ups from simpol, and he is, right back in this. So Kohrek, of course, racing against MrWunder, z4t0x racing against simpol, but we can talk about them as if they're all racing one another, because that makes for a more compelling narrative, more chances for hype late in this race. z4t0x getting his Master Sword, going to pull it out of the pedestal. And after this, he and MrWunder and simpol, when he gets there, are going to be trying to kill 4 enemies or more, but probably just exactly 4 because we like to save time. Between tugging that first tree and tugging on that second tree we just saw MrWunder pull on, that is going to get him 4 red rupees, 4 or more enemies killed since that last pull without having taken damage. Will result in 4 red rupees popping out of those trees and other tuggable objects. And so that will be most of the rupees that the runners need to pay off Kiki when they get to Palace of Darkness. That's kind of the early game rupee management that's most important. simpol did, he did take a dive off of the bomb jump. So he rode the elevator 2 floors down in Tower of Hera. I think z4t0x may have as well. I didn't catch it though. So I think both of the top runners had a little bit of a bomb jump mishap, whereas MrWunder got through cleanly, and so he's the first one into Castle Tower. MrWunder having a very nice run so far. Looks like he is going for what we refer to as Pooey Knights, having a little bit of trouble with it, and it looks like he's kind of cleaning it up kind of however he feels at this point. Pooey Knights didn't quite go well. He would have been better served by serving up some Din. We'll see what the other runners choose to do for their Gold Knights. But he is cleanly through and making his way up through the rest of Castle Tower. Castle Tower, another costly place to take a death. Thankfully, the runners have a good bit of health, and there are a lot of places to get hearts. The Red Guards, which are kind of the biggest assholes in the area, do have a lot of hearts in their drop table. Now we have Kohrek's sound, hearing him pull the Master Sword out. And yeah, I see in chat, MrWunder's strats for killing these blue guards. These blue guards share a prize pack with the mini Helmasaurs and the Pokies, or I think they're Pokobokos or something, in Turtle Rock. And so the runners will usually look to manipulate a fairy drop late in the run, as well as potentially a full magic fill. MrWunder getting a nice double spin on that red guard, really nice strat there, and he's into Circle of Pots, getting bad RNG, but that's a cool way of handling that. And I didn't check and see, but I assumed that there were arrows under that pot, because there should have been, but I didn't see him spawn, so he must have gotten them real quick. But the runners are very often going to try and manipulate a fairy drop in Turtle Rock, as well as potentially a full magic. Those follow a heart in that drop sequence. And so if you see a heart from a blue guard or a mini Helmasaur, you know that a fairy is the next one up. And they are 50% drops, so it's not guaranteed exactly when that'll happen. But if MrWunder's already gotten his heart, then he will probably have to be killing a mini Helmasaur on the bridge in Pod. And so he's 50-50 to lose his fairy, is basically what it comes down to. But meanwhile, MrWunder is on to the Aghanim fight. z4t0x just a little behind, and Kohrek and simpol are both starting up their Castle Tower. Aghanim, there's some pure RNG. Runners can try and optimize the fight a little by trying to knock Aghanim toward the center of the screen, but on attacks 2, 3, and 4 out of every 5 attack cycle, Aghanim will have a 50-50 chance of throwing a white ball or a blue ball. Blue balls cannot damage Aghanim, just the white balls. So far, MrWunder getting 1 white ball, or 1 blue ball, sorry. Believe none so far for z4t0x. So, and that's at least 2 for MrWunder, as I'm going to stop counting them. But hopefully the runners are able to get, ideally 2 or fewer, well, ideally 0, but 2 or fewer is kind of what runners are looking for, because that will guarantee they only get 1 lightning cycle. There was a 3rd for MrWunder where he's guaranteed that bonus lightning cycle. Each attack loses about 6 seconds, so each blue ball costs 6 seconds, plus the 3rd and the 7th ones, and I guess also the 11th, if I'm doing the math right, all cost 13 seconds apiece. Kohrek onto Circle of Pots. And simpol clean up some red guards with some arrows, using some faster strats here at the expense of arrows. His arrows not doing so great. He will get a few more here in the Circle of Pots room. And, oh, Kohrek taking a bridge fall. He needs to be careful. I want to see him boomerang these guys. And, oh, he got short boom, but he was able to read that and account for it cleanly, and he is through to Aghanim. Thankfully, just by dealing with all of Aghanim's attacks from the left or right of Aghanim, you can 100% avoid taking damage, assuming that you time things and space things correctly. So this is a relatively safe fight. I hope Kohrek knows how to handle it. But Kohrek and simpol now onto their points of RNG. Here z4t0x is going to pay off the monkey, and now MrWunder just a couple frames behind. Both runners with enough rupees that even if they were to get hit and have to pay the monkey again, they would not. Oh, and z4t0x menuing to book. I think he wanted to menu to mirror there and buffer a dash cancel so that he could bring Kiki up and not have that long walk cutscene, but instead he's got the option to read a book during that long Kiki stroll. But now he's over to his mirror. Just a little bit of a menuing mishap, but again, just minor time losses. The big time losses are things like deaths, not getting hammer jump coming up here in Palace of Darkness. So that's the one thing I do want to talk about Palace of Darkness now, is the runners are getting into it. The route we're going to see from them is a newer one, and Helmasaur's a point at the end where that Sankheart is going to show up big. It gives them a full extra hit, assuming they own full hearts, on what can otherwise be a pretty rough boss. But the biggest non-death time loss in Palace of Darkness comes from whether to go for or skip a bomb jump that happens to be the hardest bomb jump that you'll regularly see runners go for, because you do actually need to be on a pretty tight timer to get it, and so you usually see runners use certain pause buffers for menuing to set it up. It's double Y pixel perfect bomb jump, where you have to have the bomb at the right Y pixel as well as Link at the right Y pixel relative to the bomb and relative to the screen overall to bomb jump him perfectly through a railing, so he'll be able to clip over and avoid going back and forth through that dark maze in Pod. Or not really, he would mirror out, but it avoids some screens at the back of Pod where Link would have to go to get another key to open a door. As it is, a maze to grab a key, and we see MrWunder and z4t0x coming up on that bomb jump. So you'll see them pause, menu to bombs to set their position, and then once they get that position, they're going to set the Y pixel or Y position of Link relative to that bomb, and then hold up and clip through the railing. Both runners doing it very nicely. z4t0x throwing his bomb to bomb open the wall first. That makes it a little tougher of a trick, but does save a little bit of time. But most of the time lost there is in failing and in doing too many buffers. So really nice job by both runners. We'll see how Kohrek and simpol do when they get up to it. And simpol paying off Kiki. He will be the 4th player. So far, no Kiki resets. all the runners getting pretty good Moblin RNG. That's really the one thing that can go disastrously wrong. You can get a pretty bad pattern out of that Moblin. We saw it in a race last night. Thankfully, the runner who got it was able to read the pattern well and dodge the spears, but a little bit of RNG on how that screen plays out that can kind of screw up your monkey escort mission. But z4t0x and MrWunder now into the back of pod. Simpol and Kohrek cleaning up the front. We're going to see the runners go down into the basement. It's very dark down there. Thankfully, they have their lamp, so all is well. They're going to come up on Turtle's room. That's one of those rooms where the optimal strat looks pretty cool. They're going to try and flip all the turtles over and kill them with hammers before any of them flip back over. So z4t0x entering that room now, and MrWunder going to be a few seconds behind. z4t0x getting good turtle RNG. He's going to get a nearly optimal turtle room. Let's see. Good RNG also for MrWunder. A little slightly different outcome just on how the turtles all died, but practically the exact same thing as z4t0x enters his Helmasaur King fight. Full health, that's what runners want to see here, not only because it gives them sword beams and saves them a couple menus in an earlier screen, but also because it gives them 3 hits to give. That first hit there for z4t0x coming from fireballs that can be kind of jerks. Kohrek is coming up on his hammer jump and z4t0x going... Oh, z4t0x down to 1 hit. Okay, he is through. MrWunder playing it a little safe, and he is also through his Helmasaur King fight. So, good that both runners were able to make it through. Kohrek having a little bit of trouble setting up his hammer jump. It's going to give simpol some room to catch up. Simpol also onto his hammer jump. See how they do. Kohrek setting his Y-pixel, laying that bomb in the wrong spot, and now the bridge is going to collapse, and unfortunately, now Kohrek is going to be a little short on hearts and not going to have sword beams for the basement. Even if he does this optimally without a little bit of drop RNG, he could get mini Helmasaur Fairy, potentially. But yeah, this... I can't, express enough how tricky this can be, and there it was, that pixel. And so Kohrek makes it through the railing. Good to see him fighting through that, because having to do the back, you can make up a little bit by grabbing some rupees there and avoid having to do either Bombable Hut or Sea House in Village Outcasts. But that's kind of a crappy silver lining. Really just want to get hammer jump, and so it was good to see all of the runners nail it this run. A little bit of an overworld bonk from MrWunder, but thankfully in a pretty safe spot. The runner's making it through pretty cleanly, and z4t0x using a hammer dash there to knock all those pegs down. We're going to see the same thing from MrWunder, but he dashed a little high there, had to dispatch one of the pitchfork-wielding whatever they are, donkeys, or I don't even know what that thing is. Someone, I'm sure, knows the name of that enemy. They got little horns on their head, and who knows. They're a link to past enemies. But z4t0x is going to get his shovel, and he's going to go dig up his flute. So the runners know where the flute is, but it can be tricky to get it on the first dig sometimes. So we'll see if he's able to get it first dig. Same for MrWunder. Simpol having a little bit of a hardship here in the turtle room, but clean it up nicely. But he is going to be barring a rare, barring. I actually don't know if the turtles have hearts in their prize pack. I honestly forget. I think there might be one, but yeah, barring a heart, he's going to enter with 6 hearts, so he'll only have 2 hits to give on this Helmasaur King fight. Kohrek will have the full 3, so shoutouts to Sankheart. Hopefully simpol is able to make it through cleanly. I'd be remiss if I didn't mention the spin speed we just saw from z4t0x and MrWunder to skip by that red guard there outside the library. Call him Usain Bolt because he is the fastest guard in Hyrule. Red guards move faster than Link does on diagonals, and there's a lot of diagonals on that part of the screen, so we use spin speed there not only to get through the screen faster, but also to get through the screen safer. A lot of these speed strats, not only do we use them because they are faster, we use them because, frankly, they're safer than doing it sort of in a naive way. It gives us a lot of consistency to the run. And so it was good to see them not get beat up by that red guard there. z4t0x is going to be headed over. We do, after Palace of Darkness, Thieves Town, because we want to get that Titan's Mid as soon as possible so we can go over and temper our sword. That'll be the last sword upgrade that we see runners usually take. I don't know. We may see someone elect to go to Gold Sword, Silver Arrows, but I don't think we will today. Although it's possible Kohrek and simpol choose to take those. Full disclosure, I was running without Gold Sword and Silver Arrows for quite a while, and switched over to them, and immediately got a multi-minute PB, because even though it does cost quite a bit, it can save you time in terms of how you execute the end of the game. So I wouldn't be shocked to see a runner elect to go for Gold Sword and Silver Arrows, but I also wouldn't be surprised to see him choose to skip. And z4t0x is going to be the first one into the back of Thieves Town here. He has activated his flute, but did not take the powder, whereas we saw MrWunder go and get the powder. And so he had to go to the Witch's Hut, turn that mushroom in. And so that's a really valuable safety that he'll have for the end of the run, but it did cost him some seconds, so he is going to lose a little time on z4t0x, which is how z4t0x has built his lead up relative to the other three, to separate just from MrWunder, who was pretty close to that point. We'll see how much time that powder saves or costs. The runner's going to have to go up here to the top of Thieves Town, bomb the floor open to expose light in Blind's chamber, then go down to the basement and save the maiden that's down there. Spoilers, it's Blind in disguise. And then they're going to have to escort that maiden up to the room with the light because reasons, and then you'll reveal Blind as a boss fight, and thankfully Blind's a pretty safe fight, assuming that everything stays on script. Otherwise it turns into bullet hell, and so I think the runners will have had enough practice on Blind that, that things will go a-okay. Highlighting this flute activation here that we're getting to listen to on Kohrek's screen. That's a beloved part of the run because it is another rare input break in the run. But there's z4t0x getting his Titan's Mitt. That's going to let him lift the rock to let the frog out of the crappiest jail in Hyrule. That frog could really just jump down from the ledge, but I went on a bit of a rant with that, egged on by Scrivo, who feels the same way about it as I do. So I'm not going to recapitulate too much on that, but yeah, that... I have no idea what that frog is doing, but we're going to see him rescue that frog. That frog's going to offer to temper the sword at a discount for the service of lifting a measly rock. And the runners are going to end up with a tempered sword, which is very useful going forward for the rest of the run. And nice blind fight there from z4t0x, not taking any hits, staying right on script. Hopefully MrWunder, when he gets up to it here in just a second, will be able to do the same thing, and Kohrek and simpol in just a couple minutes as they are making their way back over to the Dark World. And MrWunder into his blind fight. You're going to see the runners kind of poke the maiden right in the head. Wait till that happens, and then hold B and walk down. Then tap and hold B again. Wait for this head to kind of run around, and oh, MrWunder's got a slightly different script he follows, but it works just the same. Usually you'll see runners do that second phase from the right side. MrWunder did it from the left side, and that was a really cool fight. It looked like it was perfectly on script for him, but he just had a different script. So, really cool blind showcase there by MrWunder, not one you get to often see. There, z4t0x lets the frog out of his rock prison. He could have just jumped down, but, you know, here we are. He's gonna walk him over to this house, mirror. Now he's a dwarf in the light world, and that dwarf is gonna be super thankful for the interdimensional escort. And he's gonna offer to temper the sword for only 10 rupees. You have to verify 3 times that you're okay with this deal, but you're okay with this deal. And then we're going to see z4t0x and all the other runners head up to Skullwoods from there, but not before having a chance at a very, very important trick. The runners stand to save about 20 frames here by going for a pixel-perfect dash called Fence Dash. We call it Fence Dash because you rub against a fence, and you keep dashing. And it looks a little bit like what we just saw from Kohrek there. That dash requires no setup, that dash along those switch pegs. But there it is, z4t0x getting his Fence Dash, saving his 20 frames. It's a favored trick. We'll see if MrWunder goes for the same thing. The bonk would have cost probably about a second. But, of course, he would have had to go back, reset the screen, and try for the Fence Dash again, so who knows how long that could have taken. And memes aside, we still have a really nice race going between Kohrek and simpol here. Those guys are, like, super, super synced up here. And, yeah, Kohrek a little behind because of having to menu over to the hammer there. But this is quite a race between the bottom left and top right, and MrWunder and z4t0x also not too far apart. MrWunder also getting his Fence Dash, so nicely done. Having a little bit of trouble getting the bush bonk after the Fence Dash. That's a strat that I like to think that I've pioneered. It's not a good strat, it's just something I do all the freaking time. But, yeah, he's able to recover nicely. simpol onto's blind, and now Kohrek as well. So far, things are going perfectly according to script. Looks like simpol and Kohrek are using the script that I'm a little more familiar with, both getting through Phase 2. And we'll see how Phase 3 goes. Sometimes Phase 3 can require a little bit of sight reading, a little more chaotic. But both runners doing very nicely. simpol going to save a little bit of time relative to Kohrek because of the time that this heart refill will take. For Kohrek, I think it's something like 10 frames per heart or something, so Kohrek going to be losing almost a second just from the health loss, but you know, not too major. He can make up 2 hearts worth of that with Fence Dash in just a few seconds. z4t0x is headed into Mummy Hallway, fire rodding the wall there. Not usually something that you want to see, but makes it through. He's using a pretty aggressive strat there, which thankfully saves him some fire rod shots. We'll see what sort of strat MrWunder uses for his Mummy Hallway when he gets up here. Also using 2 slashes for the Gibdo in the spike key room there. And so into his Moth fight. He's going to be trying to get a sort of poke dash there. I don't think he got it to get 2 hits worth of damage on Moth at the start of the fight, but he does clean it up very nicely. Clean Mothula from z4t0x. Hopefully all the other runners can match. Alright, so now MrWunder doing his Mummy Hellway, showing a little bit of a safer strat. Kind of using the maximum number of Fire Rod shots that is still efficient, but does very nicely, using that powder to good effect there, choosing to powder the Anti-Fairy. And he has 1 Fire Rod shot left. Oh, Mini Moldorm coming over and eating the Fire Rod shot, taking one for the team for the Gibdo there. That's a little unfortunate. And Mini Helmasaur dropping that fairy for MrWunder. So that fairy is out of that prize pack when T-Rock comes. The next thing in that prize pack is going to be a full magic decanter. So I imagine that that is a point of some consternation for MrWunder, but he takes that fury out on Moth, and Mothula is dead. Clean Moth for MrWunder. And I would be remiss if I did not admit that I just missed Fence Dash for both Simpol and Kohrek, so we're going to say they both nailed it. I saw them kind of moving through the part of the screen that I wanted to see them moving through quickly, so I assume they both got their Fence Dash. They will be headed into Skullwoods here in just a second. And we see z4t0x and soon MrWunder are doing a little bit of a sort of a fetch quest here across Hyrule. They're going to mirror out after Skullwoods, flute to 4 to Link's house, go up, use the Aghanim portal to set themselves back into the Dark World, to go up and talk to this catfish and get the Quake Medallion. Bonk into the walls we saw z4t0x do. That's not just a kind of goofy thing that we do, it does set up a quick warp. Quick warp, for whatever reason, 2 out of every 8 pixels, sort of 2 consecutive pixels out of every 8 will, and repeating every 8, set the camera in such a way that the warp will complete 34 frames faster than it would normally, so can save about half a second just by bonking there. And so you'll usually see a runner bonk against that wall. On their way up to Zora, they're going to pay Zora 500 rupees. That's where we got the 300 rupee drops in Village of Outcasts, to go and buy some finger webs or flippers, so that they'll be able to later do Swamp Palace. Really is the only reason that we need the flippers. Everything else could have been done with fake flippers, but unfortunately Swamp Palace got to be Swamp Palace, and so we're going to have to go pay 500 rupees. MrWunder coming up on his catfish visit. Also, thankfully, z4t0x, getting an extra bomb there from that kind of bad Zora RNG. We'll see how he chooses to route his bombs the rest of the run, but he's up to 6 now. He's going to head over into Ice Palace. There's that portal there on the exit of Zora's domain that takes you right over here. And so, as we've kind of mentioned a couple times earlier, this is one of the major points of potential time loss in the run. A death to the boss here, Cold Stare, not only leaves you devoid of magic, but also sends you all the way back to the beginning of the dungeon. So not only does it usually involve the time loss of having to redo the dungeon, it also involves needing to get more magic or completely alter the route and the sequence in which you're doing things. And Kohrek is not in a good health situation. This Mini Moldorm is a bully. I don't know if he can reset the Anti-Fairy, but it looks like he is just going in. So let's watch Kohrek try and clutch out this Moth. This is a dangerous proposition. Oh, and he gets through cleanly. Nice clutch moth fight there from Kohrek. z4t0x coming up on, actually right now he's already on his Ice Palace bomb jump. Menuing to hammer there so that he'll be able to hit this switch with a hammer dash. Kind of an optimal strat there to get that menu in. He's also going to want that hammer coming up for 2 rooms from now for Lonely Firebar. It'll help his movement on ice, getting really far over to the left for that Pengator bowling room. And so, very nice section of Ice Palace here from z4t0x. We'll see him, having a little bit of trouble in Lonely Firebar, but he's just going to dash down the stairs. That was still probably like a mid-5-second room, so still fine. Again, just minor time losses here, nothing major, accepting deaths. Right now, z4t0x and MrWunder are in the leads in their respective races. z4t0x is racing against simpol, and MrWunder is racing against Kohrek. Both z4t0x and MrWunder are into Ice Palace. Kohrek and simpol are on their way to Ice Palace, but they have to do a little bit of a fetch quest, go get their Quake Medallion, get their flippers, so that they can then go swim later. z4t0x, ooh, he's had a little trouble with cold, so hope he can clean this up cleanly. So far, okay, he is through. If he had taken one more hit from a puff, that would have been that much maligned cold stare death, so it's good that he was able to make it through. Runners are usually going to want to keep those puffs clustered in the corner, and so there are a couple different quick kill strats that runners will go for. The safe one that a lot of runners will use is the 6-slash strat, but I don't know if z4t0x may have chosen to go for a poke dash strat, which is a little faster, but also a little higher risk for the puffs to escape. Either way, the puffs did escape, and he was able to clean up nicely on it. Kohrek getting his Quake and his Quick Warp. And he will be following simpol up to Zora here to pay 500 rupees, get his flippers. So we see z4t0x immediately after Ice now heading up Death Mountain. He's going to go get his Ether Medallion. And so this is something that the runners could do really at any point. It's actually a little bit faster, although a little higher risk to do after Swamp Palace. Runners will need to do it before Misery Mire in order to open Misery Mire. But I assume that z4t0x will be doing the... MrWunder took a fall somewhere. I saw the red screen. His magic bar's low. It had to have been a cold death. Oh my gosh. I'm sorry for missing it. Focusing on what was going on z4t0x. But what we'll see is MrWunder is going to dip out, not choose to fill up on magic. He's just going... Oh! Where is he going? Oh, he's going to Swamp. He's going to do his fetch quest mission later. So he's going to do what we're seeing from z4t0x after doing Swamp and then going and doing Ice again. But he's going to use Swamp Palace to get a full health refill. But that's going to let Kohrek make up a lot of the time in that race. So, like I highlighted at the beginning of this, Kohrek versus MrWunder is very likely to determine the outcome of this group. It's Group AD, if I'm remembering correctly. And Link Orange has already punched his ticket with a 3-0 performance, but Kohrek and MrWunder each are still live by going 2-1, I believe. It's possible to have a three-way 1 and 2 tie, but if either of them, still in control of their own destiny, manages a 2-1, that will give them the throughput to the bracket stage of the tournament. Kohrek at 1 and 1 can stand to punch his ticket today if he manages to win, and MrWunder, if he manages to win, will need to beat Sarah Leppy in his game to punch his ticket, or there will be a tie at the bottom of that with a three-way 1-2, and that would result in the best average time making it through. And so both runners still in control of their own destiny in the group. Kohrek has one try for this bomb jump. He's got it set up okay, but he's going to need to dodge this fire bar, and hopefully we see him take the anti-fairy safety here at the bottom, but hopefully he gets a Pengator drop. Pengators do have a couple hearts in their drop table, so, or maybe it's just one heart, but hopefully that heart drops. It did not. Thankfully, not a lot that'll hurt him between here and the anti-fairy, so hopefully he's able to go through cleanly. And getting a little close to that fire bar, but makes it through. Just gotta dodge these freeze orbs. So far, so good. And we'll see. I want to see him go north here from this room. Simpol now onto his cold stare fight. All the runner. Oh gosh, Simpol getting bullied. He cannot take another hit. Oh, he did take another hit. So yeah. Simpol also with the cold death. We'll see what he chooses to do to fix it. Kohrek did take that anti-fairy, so his health is going to be in a little bit of a better situation. Cold stare is just a fight that can go so wrong if you mess up that quick kill, as we've seen for MrWunder and Simpol, and also on z4t0x's screen. He was just able to weather the storm and not take that last hit. We'll see how Kohrek's able to do it. Looks like he's going to set up for a spin, and he's going for the 6 slash, and so far so good. A little bit of cleanup duty here, but yeah, Kohrek, of the 4 cold stares we've seen, by far the cleanest fight. So nice cold stare there for Kohrek. But yeah, Lomi and Jones pointing out in the chat that the game wants you to have blue mail because it's in the big chest and Ice Palace, so all the enemies that are kind of downstream of that in how the game expects you to be completing things are kind of set to deal damage, accounting for the fact that you probably have blue mail. So those cold stare puffs hit for 4 apiece and the ice cubes for 2. Blue mail does reduce that damage. MrWunder getting his hook shot here. He'll be the first one to showcase that strat there. If you rub against that statue as you're headed up to that big chest, and then walk straight up, grab your hook shot, hold down right until you kind of nudge the edge, menu over to hook shot, and hook shot right, you can lift that pot and then hook shot right again, and kind of cleanly move through that whole sequence and hook to the pot that has the small key. It's a nice consistent setup that you'll see runners go for a lot. We'll see if z4t0x uses the same thing here in a minute when he gets there. MrWunder may look like he's further ahead in Swamp Palace, but he does need to go back and redo Ice Palace. Simpol choosing to go back into Ice Palace without the magic he needed, but using the Pengator drops to set himself up with full magic. That's a good read there. The Pengators, as well as the pickles outside of Ice Palace in the Light World. Wunder did take a cold stare death, so MrWunder and Simpol as well both need to go back through Ice Palace. Simpol choosing to do it now, farming up magic, and MrWunder choosing to go over to Swamp. He's going to get his magic refill here from Argus. Just different sort of damage mitigation strategies from the 2 runners. And MrWunder just 2 spins away from getting his magic refill, and we'll see how he patches his Ice Palace return trip back in. Kohrek headed up to his ether tablet for the ether medallion, and then we'll see if he chooses to also do Ice Rod at the same time. Simpol absolutely staying full on magic, getting another full decanter drop there. So hopefully he's able to keep his health up for this fight, and looks like he was going for a hammer-based Lonely Firebar, not quite getting it, but is able to sneak in underneath that that Firebar there. And z4t0x going for some map strats. Not something you normally see. But, yeah, this is not the Argus he wanted, but it's the Argus he got. Fury fire rodding there. Not very happy with that fight, I'm sure. But at least he, was able to clean it up, avoid the death. We just saw Kohrek use a block deletion trick, using the mirror in a non-dungeon, non-Dark World space, like a cave. Dark World caves also work, but basically a place you cannot mirror from will cause that little bruzz noise, or the sort of mirror failure noise. And the blocks, by virtue of being turned into sprites for whatever reason, will erase themselves. Simpol back into the Cold Stare fight. Hopefully round 2 goes better. Oh, shucks. Yeah, Simpol, round 2 did not go better. So we'll see how he elects to deal with this. I think that he's taking a little bit of a breather right now. So let's will Simpol through this one. That is an unfortunate death, and to take it twice, it hurts. Cold Stare 3, runners 2 so far. So, we see MrWunder back in to try and even the score with Cold Stare. And I'm seeing in chat that Simpol was a minute 24 ahead of PB. Yeah, he was on a really nice pace. But the unfortunate part about A Link to the Past is that these runs, the NMG run gets harder and harder the deeper into it you go, with the sole exception potentially of Swamp Palace, which can still nickel and dime you both for health and for time. But there's potential for major time losses in Ice Palace, in Misery Mire, in Turtle Rock, and in Ganon's Tower. So you'll see these green paces all the time when you run this game, and converting them into an actual PB, it sucks. It feels really good when you finally get there, but there are so many runs die, and Cold Stare is one of the reasons for that to happen. So I identify with the frustration that Simpol's probably feeling right now, but hopefully we can see him close out. And, you can always play for a gold on the next split, so hopefully he's able to get his splits back in order and recover. And I see in the speedracing.tv channel, Simpol didn't finish, so unfortunately it looks like Simpol has elected to take a forfeit here. I can fully understand that a couple Cold Stare deaths really, especially if you're on a good pace, really can get to you. So GG to Simpol. Really nice performance. Minus 124 after Skullwoods is nothing to sneeze at. I'm sure he will be having his PB come in if he chooses to grind for it anytime now. And I'll see if Simpol wants to come in and chat, but of course I understand if he does not feel much like chatting at this particular moment. And I missed z4t0x's torches time, but it looks like it was probably a 108 range, so z4t0x on pretty nice pace here. Getting his Cane of Samaria, he's going to head into the Mire basement. Simpol does decline joining us, very understandable, but does want to extend his thanks to our restreamer today. So I'll take the moment to shout out on behalf of Simpol, myself, and all of the runners, I am sure. Thanks for all of the folks on the back end of this who are helping to make this happen. There are so many, unsung helpers, and so if you're enjoying what you're seeing today, and hopefully you are, as Kohrek's on to his Argus fight, the music just ramped up a little bit. But yeah, if you were enjoying what you were seeing today, definitely give the Speed Gaming channels a follow. There's lots of races. Kohrek getting a really nice 2 fire rod shot and a spin attack. Phase 2 quick kill on Argus after kind of a typical Phase 1, but cleaning it up very nicely with the swag. As z4t0x is headed into his Vitreous fight, he's going to be going probably for what we call a WQ Vidi, a strat pioneered by WQ, one of the top runners in this game. And he gets a 1 cycle out of it, so not quite the WQ Vidi that he wanted, but is able to make it through the fight safely. Basically, you want to use iframes from damage from the slime, which deals 1 heart, so that you can get all up in those eyeballs, which deal 4 hearts per hit, and spin attack him to death. And he cleans it up pretty nicely, so that was a good, not great Vitreous from z4t0x, but it's the sort of fight that, as a runner, you're not unhappy with. But yeah, we do have a close race here between MrWunder and Kohrek. I'm really excited to see how this one winds up, and z4t0x, I don't know what his current time for seeding is, but there's potential that he will be able to improve his bracket seeding time. Let me see if I can't pull that up and find out. And meanwhile, Kohrek opening up Mire, carrying the bird in, going for the bird carry. He's got full health, so he's going to have an option at a 1 cycle Mire 2. MrWunder also had it, not quite able to be successful with it, but he is able to clean it up nicely. Kohrek also pretty close between MrWunder and Kohrek right now. Looks like z4t0x currently has a 1:32.16 as his best in-tournament time, so he is well ahead of pace to crush that. So z4t0x is still playing for his tournament seeding. So if he finishes up with a sub 1:32.16, or really a sub 1:32.10, and actually that's not true, a sub 1:32.07, because Thunder Mustache, who was the 1:32.10, improved his time last night. That was a really good race if y'all missed it. But he'll be looking to cut 1:32.07 to move ahead of Error in the current seeding list. So let's see, a 1:14.20 torches for Kohrek, so he's on right around 1:35 pace. But yeah, as Superman Taylor is mentioning, Kohrek and MrWunder both still in control of their tournament destiny. MrWunder is the favorite in this race, but I mean, The race has started and the gloves are off, and we have a close race on our hands. So Kohrek, by virtue of being 1-1, if he gets to 2-1, if he wins this one, he will be making his way into brackets. And oh, MrWunder, looking like he was going for Spark Gamble and then going for a bonk to avoid taking damage. Nice health preservation strat there for MrWunder. I'd not seen that. Ooh, he's going to need to be fast. Missing that first quick hook shot. Otherwise would have needed to leave the super tile to reset that bridge. So it was good that he was able to get ahead of the bridge. That is roughly a 15-second time loss if you don't get there. z4t0x, nicely done getting through Chain Chomp Room. So sorry if I'm missing what's going on his screen, focusing on the close contest between Kohrek and MrWunder, but z4t0x doing great on his own up there. Regrettably, simpol, a couple cold stare deaths. He decided it was not in his best interest to finish this one. No surprise there, honestly. That's just a demoralizing death to take. And so GG to simpol. Not how he wanted to go out on this one, I'm sure, but a very nice performance at that point. He was on a very good pace out of Skull. And so here we see MrWunder bombing open the wall. He is gonna head on through and Kohrek was going for some Cane of Samaria swag. Didn't quite work, just clean it up normally. But both Kohrek and MrWunder are going to be coming up on their Vitreous fights. z4t0x has gotten his big key from Turtle Rock. He's going to be coming into double poke. He's going to charge his sword coming through this, read the RNG, kill one with a spin, and now clean up the other. A little bit of awkward RNG, not what he was looking for. Was hoping for one of the... Oh, and let's see how MrWunder does with his attempt at this WQ Viddy. So far, so good. And, okay, yeah, he's going to get a clean one cycle, but really nice health management. Kohrek getting a few hearts back from powdering the anti-fairies. That powder safety coming up big. Let's see how he does here with his Vitreous fight. Oh, he got a poke, so all bets are off. Now we get to clench it out here with Kohrek. Oh, come on, man, you got this. And don't get an eyeball prison. Don't do it. Oh, Kohrek, unfortunately, taking a Vitreous death. Thankfully, he's just going to be able to kind of run right back through, going to collect himself here and get back at it. Not going to have sword beams for Meyer too, but that's what I was saying, just the back end of this run can really just crush you. No shame in that. We've seen a lot of runners died of Vitreous in this tournament. Meanwhile, MrWunder has fluted to 1. He is going to be headed up to Turtle Rock, going to make his way through basically what we just saw z4t0x do. z4t0x going for some backdoor Trinex. So far, so good. Oh, missing some shots here. He's going to need to connect with those, but now things are A-okay. z4t0x going to be going for a double spin and then a slash to dispatch the Trinex head, or all of Trinex really. The last of the 3 necks is down. A little bit of an interesting positioning there. He kind of knocked himself off to the right rather than to the left, just to avoid taking that hit from the leading head of Trinex. Wanted to be sure to be safe. I think he knows that if he doesn't screw up, he's got his improved seating in the bag, and so he might not want to push it too hard. You see MrWunder opening up Turtle Rock here with the Quake Medallion. We'll see if he gets a frame-perfect quick drop here as he walks to the ledge. It means he got his Quake Dash, or either that or got a frame-perfect quick drop. Either way, impressive. It's an item dash that you normally don't notice unless you know what you're looking for. But if you item dash with the Quake medallion there, or whatever medallion you're using to open Turtle Rock for the randomizer aficionados here, works with all of them. You'll get a perfect quick drop off of the edge, even if you don't get that spin speed or super speed. And Kohrek making clean work of Vitreous there in his revenge fight, as z4t0x is opening up Ganon's Tower. MrWunder onto the roller room. See, looks like he's going for a D-boost strat here, and didn't quite get what he was going for, so he's going to play it safe. Lose a little bit of time in that room, but again, just trying to make sure that he's in good shape to finish his run. And we saw z4t0x did grab the torch key there. That will mean he will not need to grab a key in Upper Ganon's Tower. z4t0x is on sub 130 pace. Looking like he was on 128 range pace. Maybe 129. I didn't actually catch his Mire Torch's time to answer Maximum Barnage there in the chat. And MrWunder, okay, going for Fire Rod strats. Definitely appreciate the Fire Rod strats here in the sort of the pre-T-Rock Big Key room there with the Switch and the Pokey and the Anti-Fairies and all of the other terrible things that are in that room. z4t0x looking in pretty good shape arrow-wise heading into his Ice Armos fight. He is going to want a few more arrows. We'll see if he grabs the one from the Skull Pot here or the chest, or if he chooses to take the chest behind Ice Armos. Going to do. So we are going to see him get that chest because he's going to want 9 arrows at least before going up into Upper Ganon's Tower. Kohrek now opening Turtle Rock. We'll see if he goes for his item dash. Looks like z4t0x has a nice quick kill set up here on Ice Armos, getting it. Firing a couple extra arrows, but he knows he is going to be getting 10 more here from this chest in just a second, so all is well. Mash and Y getting that mirror back out. He's going to go to Upper Ganon's Tower, and we're going to cheer him on to improve his tournament seeding. Right now he is the 40th seed, with a 132-16 of those who are currently qualified for the single elim brackets. And z4t0x showing off how you shoot an arrow into a spike, but also some pretty cool Mimic Room strats. Those spikes are assholes. They'll eat your arrows, and so you want to be sure you have a little bit of margin for error when you get to Upper GT. And I'm getting an update in the chat. z4t0x was 2 minutes behind PB of 127.58 after Trinex, and so if he has a PB Ganon's Tower, I don't know how his Ganon's Tower was in his PB, but he could still sub 130. But anything sub 132 is going to improve his tournament seeding. So if he cuts the sub 130, he cuts Skrivo and Ninizy and Ivan and a lot of good runners up there higher up in the bracket. But even if he cuts that 132, he's going to bop the likes of Error and Jet, and there's potential for him to improve his seed into the bracket, and that's what I want to see at this point. I want to see a good finish here from z4t0x. And z4t0x on to Oh, unfortunately, that hop there was not what he wanted out of that landmo. Clean it up with the spin. He almost had a really nice landmo too there. Meanwhile, MrWunder cleaning up Trinex. Trinex, a really dramatic death animation there with all the explosions, and it's like a 90s action movie. I'm not a fan. It takes forever for that thing to die. But z4t0x, crossing what I have now learned is the Fusta Bridge, feels really bad. But, well, it is what it is. He makes it cleanly through so far, taking a little bit of a scenic route through. Oh, and okay, he makes it through. I think the timer does continue to run through that error message, but I'm not sure. But gets the refill there. And does not despawn Upper Ganon's Tower. And z4t0x using his last bomb there. He doesn't need it. So, all's well. Without powder, he's just gonna grab the heart and the full magic refill, and he's on to Moldorm 2. I don't want to... just want to see a clean fight. Yeah, I want to see him clean it up and get across. But yeah, MrWunder took a Cold Stare Death, Kohrek took an Eastern Palace, and a Vitreous Death. So, both runners, a little bit of hardship. Kohrek onto Laser Skip that I haven't highlighted on anyone else's stream just yet. I've been talking about other stuff from other runners, but getting it nicely. z4t0x onto his Geometry Wizard Aghanim 2 fight. We'll see what sort of patterns he gets. This is a crappy one, so could have had that double, got the single out of it. Another crappy Aghanim pattern, parlaying it into another single. And a single by virtue of a blue ball, so we have a 1-1-1. This is a nice pattern right here. Oh, and unfortunately not getting the triple, but he is set up for a 5-round here. So yeah, nice 5 cycle there from z4t0x. Not really what you want to see, but he still is in pretty good shape. A clean Ganon here, and he will be destroying his tournament PB, so... let's cheer him on through his Ganon fight. Meanwhile, Kohrek about to clean up Trinex. Going for that double spin and a slash. Waiting for the belly to turn all sorts of colors. I don't even know what color to call that. It's all sorts of colors flashing. But waiting for that to become the vulnerable spot rather than just hitting Trinex before. A little safer, just to get out of the way of the head. The head deals so much more damage than the rest of the body. I think Trinex's head hits for 4 or 6 hearts, and then the rest of the body only hits for 1 heart. So there's z4t0x. I think he just got a 1-in-1 there, locking himself in that ring of fire bats using some poke dash strats for Ganon, getting some crappy teleports, but he's on to phase 3. Has a couple hits to give from fire bats, so far, so good on this Ganon fight. As MrWunder, Ice Armos hopping around, being a jerk, but gets through it. And we're going to see him also grab those arrows and mirror out. z4t0x is going to be looking to get 3 spins per cycle here. So he's going to time that that torch lighting relative to Ganon's movement in such a way that he will have an opportunity to get 3 spins per cycle for many of these cycles. Kohrek opening up Ganon's tower. That one looked good. Yep, nice. He's going to get 3 hits for this cycle for Ganon. I think that's 7 now? So, again, takes 12 spins. It's going to be close. I think the sub 130 is off the table at this point. Yeah, sub 130 not. Ooh, I was wrong on my count. Sub 130 might still be in play. When is he going to cross? Can he hold up? Oh, there it is. z4t0x cutting the 130. GG z4t0x. Let's see what the official Speed Racing TV time is. And, oh, it looks like it might have been a timer thing. Because it says on speedracing.tv, z4t0x finished with a 1:31:08. Oh, he says, oops, forgot to stop the time on speed racing, lol, in the chat. But if it goes in as a 1:31:08, the speedracing.tv time is the official time we use. Let's see what that'll do to his bracket seating. So currently at 40th, that will bop. Thunder Mustache just improved his seating. I don't remember what time he got, but I think he also cut the 130. But Error, Jet, Lost Llama, M-Chan, oh hey, it's David, Langxian, Cransoon, D-Rock. Nope, not D-Rock. Sorry. That would put him in 32nd, so that 1:31:08. So by virtue of not clicking a button, looks like D-Rock, Emma, Bamboo Shadow, Ivan, Ninnies, Scriva are all safe today. But a very nice sub 130 from z4t0x, so I'll see if he wants to come in and chat. And now we have our race of the bottom runners here. Kohrek cleaning up his Ice Armos as MrWunder makes his way through Upper Ganon's Tower, showing off the cool strats there for the Wizrobe room. And Kohrek definitely getting these arrows. He is completely out of arrows, had to clean up that Ice Armos with the sword slashes, so now he's set for Upper Ganon's Tower. And we'll see how MrWunder and Kohrek are able to finish up. It's great to see all of the runners in chat right now, both from this tournament and the various other A Link to the Past tournaments going on. I know there's a 2v2 tournament that's kind of a multi-category, super randomized thing going on that Maximum Barnage has been putting a lot of work in on. Looks like Ak and Kohrek are still in on that, and I think Maximum Barnage himself is also still participating in that, along with, I think, Dark Shadows is his teammate? I'd have to double check, but either way, that's going on. There's also, of course, the huge randomizer tournament that is eating all of the time on all the speed gamings. It's a very hungry beast. Lots of cool randomizer going on, but I'm excited to enjoy a little bit more NMG here. We're just about finishing up the group stages in this tournament, but it's always awesome to see all the runners from all the tournaments in the chat. And I say this because I want to highlight how awesome the community is for A Link to the Past. If you are not currently in A Link to the Past runner but are thinking about it, the community is super active and also full of super awesome and participatory people. So don't hesitate to get started. If you type Bang Prac in the channel, it'll send you a link to the practice hack that many runners use to practice and hone their strategies. Practice hack by Pinkus, who made it. Very, very useful tool. Otherwise, all you're going to need is a way to broadcast A Link to the Past and a way to play A Link to the Past. So whether that be a console or an emulator, you are good to go. I encourage anyone to jump in. I'm newer to A Link to the Past myself, and I've been having a blast with it. Getting my butt whooped in all these tournaments by all of these superior players. Kohrek showing off some Wizrobe strats. Wizrobe 1's and Wizardropes too, they like to position themselves cardinally oriented to one another in a way that makes it really convenient to massacre them with Cane of Samaria. So Kohrek showing off the same thing that we saw z4t0x and MrWunder do. MrWunder now on his Ganon fight. Getting that double spin, setting himself up for the 1-1 here on the first phase. I can't tell if he has enough hits here for the 1-1 on this phase 2. Can't tell if he got it. Nope, unfortunately. And a bad Ganon position here for phase 2, but now he's more than good enough. Just needs to not take any more hits here. Oh, he took one more bat hit, but thankfully half a heart is good enough. Phase 3 and 4 substantially safer than phases, well, especially phase 2. Phase 2 is really the dangerous one, but hopefully he can close this out. Yeah, really, I just want everyone to play Super Metroid. Maximum Barnage is right. No, I want everyone to play Super Metroid. I want everyone to play A Link to the Past. All these super cool Super Nintendo games that are, you know, getting, I'll say, renewed life with the popularity of speed gaming, racing, and the ease of streaming these games. And they've gotten the randomizer treatment. There's a cool randomizer for both games. Lots of good tournaments going on. Never a better time to start playing these early and mid-1990s games than oddly, in 2018. Kohrek taking a Moldorm 2 fall, but cleaning it up nicely here on the second go-around. Hookshot and across, he will be on to Geometry Wizard soon enough, as, oh, MrWunder took a Ganon fall. Oh no. I thought he had it cleaned up, but he bopped off the edge, so we could be in for a pretty tight finish here. Again, MrWunder versus Kohrek, a match that has massive bracket implications potentially. It's very likely that we'll see one of these players play in the single elimination stage of this tournament, and the other player probably has to watch from the sidelines like me. So, finishing this is very important for both of these players. I see MrWunder say, game sucks. Don't listen, game's awesome. He kind of wanted to be inside that Ring of Fire Bats there for this cycle, or for this phase 2, just to be able to get that triple spin to set off phase 3. And oh no, game does suck. MrWunder taking a bit of a death there. He's going to drop in basically synced up with Kohrek, and the race is back on. So, you didn't pay anything, but you bought the whole seat. You only need the edge. We'll see how this goes. And Kohrek, in his phase 2, is getting that triple spin I was talking about. MrWunder back onto phase 2, round 3. This is giving Kohrek a little bit of a lead here. Yeah, Kohrek is almost a full phase ahead. So we'll see if he can close out. Kohrek, though, potentially overcoming an Armos and a Vitreous death, or MrWunder overcoming a Cold Stare death and some Ganon falls. Either of these an awesome storyline. All right. Kohrek is getting his spins in. I lost count because I was reading Speed Racing TV chat and seeing that z4t0x unfortunately doesn't have time to do the interview right now. Not surprised by that, but wanted to be sure that he wasn't trying to get in or something unsuccessfully. But both players onto their spins now. Kohrek's magic situation a little rocky. Switching over to the lamp, acknowledging that. Still looking like he's trying to set up for 3 spins per cycle. Kind of interesting. He's going to need to light that torch again as MrWunder getting his spins in. I'm not counting. I'm not very good at counting. But, oh, there it is. That is a Ganon death for Kohrek and a Ganon death for MrWunder. Looks like Kohrek has finished with an official speedracing.tv time of 1 hour, 40 minutes, and 20 seconds. MrWunder has finished with an official speed racing TV time of 1 hour, 40 minutes, and 25 seconds. That is Ace Jester as close as it gets. Wow. GG to Kohrek and MrWunder. I hope y'all enjoyed that as much as I did. And if either of those guys wants to come in and chat, I look forward to it. Oh my gosh, what did we just watch? Kohrek overcoming the Armos death and the Vitreous death and fighting his way on in. That will bring him to 2-1, and that'll put MrWunder at 0-2. Sarah Leppy, I think, also at 0-2, and I think that will mean that Kohrek will make it through out of Group AD into the brackets. I'm going to double check right now just to be sure. But yeah, Link Orange went 3-0. Kohrek will be 2-1. MrWunder and Sarah Lepe with 1 game each to play against one another, both at 0-2. That will put Kohrek through to the brackets. So congratulations to Kohrek. And I see Kohrek has joined me. Congrats, man. What a win.
Yeah, that was unexpected, to say the least. I'm, really grateful that it worked out in my favor, and nothing but respect to my opponent, because, I certainly had my own share of misfortune in that run, and I know how that feels, and man, it feels good to get the win, though.
Yeah, I mean, you guys both were really clutching it out. MrWunder, of course, I don't know, were you watching the restream? I saw you in chat at least a couple times, and looks like you're still there.
Yeah, I was on the restream. Probably shouldn't have, but once I was on there, it was...
Yeah, it's hard to turn it off. But yeah, that was quite a finish, and that'll put you through into the single elim brackets, which is awesome. Was this your best tournament race time? Or do you have a better tournament PB for seeding?
This is my, I think this is my tournament PB, actually. Yeah, I think that's true. My actual PB is 138.08 now, but yeah, this is probably my tournament PB. Okay,
so among, let's see, was it a 140? What was the exact time? Because it was a 140.20 actually. So that would put you 1 second ahead of Erifrim in the 51 spot, above Erifrim and Kekum and Shoyu among bracket qualified players. So not only punching your ticket to brackets, but setting yourself up nicely with the seeding as well. Really, really nice run, man. Was a treat to watch, of course, with how hype it was there at the end. Shame for MrWunder. Also, I mean, you guys are both great players, and I was very excited for the race, really on account of that. z4t0x and simpol also had a great race going. Man, what did we just get to watch? Let's see. So what happened in Eastern? I mean, Armos didn't go great, but
I think that's understating it. I don't even so like I started firing too slowly, but I almost saved it, but then I didn't save it, and I don't know. It was very odd, you know, speed running thing. It's never happened before, or whatever. But man, that was weird.
You bounced back nicely though. I saw the "this has never happened before" in the chat, and thinking, yeah, you know, like those Eastern deaths, they'll sneak up on you. Just it's so early in the run. Everything hits for like 1 heart, and you've only got 4 of them to work with. So, like, it happens rarely, but when it does, it kind of dampens the whole run. Usually, I'll reset those if they come up. I think I've had 1 or 2, but in a race situation, you just got to power through it, and you did a really good job with it. One thing that you did that none of the other runners did was take the bombs and rupees from the back of Sahasrara rather than do the tree rupees. Have you thought about switching over, or do you just like the extra bombs for the routing?
So if you were to go back and watch my second race in the tournament, you would have seen me mess up the rupee route, mess up the first backup, and then mess up the second backup. So, and then eventually mirror to Sahasrara. So I just decided to skip a few steps and grab the rupees up front.
Yeah, getting them from Sahasrara on the first pass rather than having 2 mirror transitions. That informs what we saw earlier. So I'm glad I remembered to ask. I unfortunately was unable to catch that second race and didn't get to catch the VOD. There's so many VODs from this tournament and so many VODs from the other Link to the Past tournaments going on that I'm invariably going to miss some of them, unfortunately.
Yeah, that's definitely true. I mean, I had quite a few good segments for me. It's just, you know, when you look at Eastern and Meyer especially, and even Ganon's Tower wasn't that good because I ran out of arrows on Armos, messing up that strat a little bit. So I had some rough ones, but I did have some good ones. So, you know, there are some good takeaways from this one.
Oh, yeah. I mean, there are a few major time losses, but did you end up getting any golds this run, or?
Hera, Thieves Town, Swamp, and Turtle Rock were all gold.
Wow.
This is only my 8th attempt at NMG any percent, though, so I should clarify that.
That's fair. Do you think you're going to be doing more practice in advance of brackets, or you think you're going to kind of roll with where you are right now in the category?
You know, I honestly did not expect to advance, so I haven't given it a lot of thought. My sum of best right now is 133.39, so I obviously have a lot of room to improve if I just get more consistent. So maybe I should grind it a little bit.
Yeah, I mean, you're absolutely a very skilled Link to the Past player. I mean, I know you're very good at the randomizers, and I think that you didn't have a lot of NMG experience into this tournament, and you're corroborating that, saying this is only your 8th run. But I think you have a lot of room to make up time versus your PB. So I'd love to see you push it farther.
Yeah, I probably will. You know, it's fun. It's a lot different than Rando. It's racing this mode is way more stressful for me than racing Rando.
Yeah, the only big difference to me is, of course, with Rando not having any idea where my opponent is. So, like, in NMG, you can kind of get an idea of what strats you need to go for or not based on being able to have information from the restream. So in that sense, you don't have to constantly watch for the, like, is my opponent done? You can just kind of check in and be like, oh, they're in Turtle Rock right now. That gives me an idea of, you know, what the remaining risks are. But yeah, sort of different beasts. But if I remember right, you were the 4 seed, or the 4 group seed in your group, right?
Yeah, that is correct. I only posted 1 run prior to the tournament, and it was pretty stale at that point. So yeah, it was. I was in the 4th seed.
Yeah, well, big congrats to advancing out of the 4 seed. And I think Link Orange, who 3-0'd in your group, was the 1 bucket seed. if I'm remembering correctly.
Yep, that's correct.
And then MrWunder, I think, was 2 and Sarah Lepe 3, but I would have to double check the seating. But was there anything else that you really wanted to highlight about the run or the tournament in general?
It's just really been a lot of fun. Learning new strats. I mean, there's still some overworld routes that I just don't have the dash lines down on yet and things like that. But it certainly has learned quite a bit, even in just watching and participating in this tournament. And it's been a lot of fun, really well organized, and definitely appreciate everyone that's been volunteering and organizing it. So just thank you.
Yeah, thank you for such a great race. Everyone, if you are not yet and enjoyed what you saw, feel free to go give Kohrek and z4t0x, our winners, as well as MrWunder and simpol, who also put on awesome races, all a follow. Those guys are obviously doing some really great A Link to the Past right now. And so I'm sure there will be plenty more to go around on their streams. Like I mentioned, Kohrek also quite good at randomizer, z4t0x as well, and MrWunder and simpol. I see them around as well. And so everyone's super active and really friendly, helpful folks, very worthy of the follows. Also, follow Speed Gaming 4 where you are right now, as well as all the other Speed Gaming channels. It looks like we need to switch over. So I'm going to cut it here, but thank you all for hanging out. I've been Maniacal. Congratulations to z4t0x and Kohrek. z4t0x improving his tournament seed, Kohrek advancing to brackets. I look forward to seeing those guys and everyone else again soon. Take it easy.